welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen and today I'm going to be making some rhubarb jam using some rhubarb that I've harvested from my allotment. I've got about 1 kilogram of rhubarb all chopped up into pieces. I've got 1 kilogram of jam sugar and I've got a lemon. I've also sterilised some jam jars by washing them in hot soapy water. And then putting them directly upside down onto the rack in my oven, then turning the oven up to 120 degrees because mine is a fan oven, that's 120 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to let them sterilise in there. And now we're going to make some jam. So I'm going to start by juicing this lemon, and then I'm going to put the lemon juice and all of the sugar into the pot and start heating it gently so that the sugar will dissolve. If you roll your lemons before you cut them and juice them, it makes it easier to get all the juice out because rolling it firmly releases all the juices inside the lemon. So lemon juice goes in, and then all of the jam sugar goes in. Now jam sugar is just normal sugar with added pectin, and pectin is the substance that's naturally found in fruit that helps your jam to set. Certain fruits have a higher level of pectin than others, and rhubarb is a really low pectin fruit. So you either need to add sugar and pectin, or you can use jam sugar, which is both. Right, let's start heating it up, really gently at first just to get the sugar to dissolve, and then we'll bring it up to a kind of faster boil. Now I've only made jam twice before, so I'm by no means an expert, but I've made rhubarb jam once before and it was so good. I'm following a slightly different recipe to last time, but we'll see how it goes. It's my first time using jam sugar. Last time I used a grated apple and lemon juice as my sources of pectin, and this time there's no apple, this is pure rhubarb jam. Now at this point it doesn't really look like it's going to turn into jam, it looks nothing like jam, but if you keep the heat kind of medium-ish, not too hot, I promise eventually it will look like jam. Now at this point you can see the sugar is starting to dissolve because you've kind of got this kind of gloopy coating instead of individual crystals, but I mean there's still sugar around the outside of the pan. This is definitely not dissolved yet, so it's still a gentle heat until it's kind of syrupy looking and you can't see any granules of sugar. Now at this point we're getting a little bit more syrupy. The sugar isn't fully dissolved, there's still some kind of granules of sugar around the outside, but I've increased the heat and then this should start to bubble soon. So at this point it's starting to bubble, and you can feel the rhubarb getting a bit softer. It's quite loose and smooth in terms of the liquid, it's very kind of free flowing. But we're going to let this continue to bubble. Don't be alarmed by all the kind of, it looks a bit like scum, like when you're boiling rice that you haven't fully washed, or if you ever boil meat sometimes you get scum. This isn't scum, this is just like froth, and it's just trapped air. Is absolutely fine. You can also apparently put a tiny bit of butter in and that like gets rid of the froth, or you can, once you've reached setting point, you can keep stirring it in the same direction. Apparently that also gets rid of the froth, but we shall see. So we're going to keep heating this until it's 105 degrees Celsius, because that is setting point. So apparently this is at 103 degrees, which is still not 105, but it is properly boiling now. And it smells awesome. So this is now over 100 degrees. It is very hot, and it's gotten slightly darker as well. I don't know if you can tell, but the colour is definitely like richer. And it still smells great, but we're still not at 105, so it needs to boil a little while longer. I might turn the heat up a little bit and see how we do. You've got to keep your eye on Jam, because if you turn up the heat too much, then it'll go everywhere, and I don't want it to do that. Okay, so the thermometer says it's at 105 degrees, so I'm going to get the spoon that I took out of the freezer and see if we can do a little setting point test with it. See, it's kind of forming drops instead of like sheets, which kind of makes me think it's not done. It's not a big sheet, is it? It's still quite liquidy. I think I'm going to let it go for another couple of minutes. I'm also going to let this cool down so I can taste it. I've also had a saucer in the freezer so that we can put a dollop of jam and do like the wrinkle test. But every time I've done the wrinkle test in the past, I've just got it wrong. So I don't know whether it's a good test or not. Jam spits and it hurts, but it also tastes. It's really, really hot in here because I've got the window shut so you can't hear all the cars outside. I don't want to put the extract fan on because then you won't hear anything. It's really hot. I mean, it tastes great. That's delicious. Right, we might as well try the saucer test to see what happens. So this is, it's not actually a saucer, it's a flat lid, but I don't have any saucers, so this will do. And this has been in the freezer for a little while, and we're just going to put like a blob of jam on it. And then let it sit and cool down, and then we'll poke it. It really is boiling like the knappers. See what the thermometer says. See, now the thermometer says like 102 degrees. Clearly not it. Might turn the heat up and step back. When it's spatting, it really did hurt. I mean, it's really going for it. Let's be honest, and the colour has totally changed. It kind of goes this kind of brownish colour, but brown sounds like it's not a nice colour. That's a delicious colour. It kind of looks caramelly and delicious. Right, let's poke this saucer. I mean, it literally just burnt me from that distance. Ow. Right, so apparently I should be able to push my finger through it and it will like a wrinkle and leave a trail. Oh, I really want you to be able to see this. So, I don't know whether you can see the wrinkle, but if I go like, look, those are like wrinkles. It's done. Right, off. Yes, yes, wrinkle test. I believe in you now. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cool down for a little bit, just so that when I pour it into the jam jars, I don't splash myself and get burned again. So I'm going to let that cool for a little bit, and then I'm going to put it into the jam jars when it's still warm. So you want to put it into the jam jars. I read it about 85 degrees Celsius so that it's hot, but it's not boiling hot. And you also don't want your jam jars to be cold either, because the difference in temperature could mean that they explode, and that would be terrible. So we'll let that cool down a little bit, and I'll be back when it's time to fill the jars. It's cooling down. I was going to put in a little bit of butter to get rid of the froth, but I just started stirring it clockwise, and the froth has just disappeared, so no need for you, Mr. Butter. My jam is vegan. Amazing! So the advice I've read on the internet says you should put your jam into your jars when the jam is still over 85 degrees C. So that's what I'm going to try and do now. I feel like I should be using a funnel, but I've only got really narrow funnels, and I'm really paranoid that the jam's going to stick and that'll be a pain to clean. So it's on my to-do list to get a jam funnel, but it's just not happening today. Right, well I don't know how I managed that, but I've managed to fill the 4 random jars that I found. So now the jars are all sealed. I'm going to process them in a water bath, and I'm going to make it a priority to get a jam funnel. This is why people use jam funnels, because jam is messy. Okay, so I've got my nice clean pot that I used for the jam filled with water. And it shouldn't be fully boiling when you put the jars in. It should be about 180 Fahrenheit. So I'm going to check the temperature now. See how hot it is. Okay, it's too hot. It's like 200 odd. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And you're supposed to use like proper jar lifters to lift them in and out, and that is like the safest way to do it. I don't have one of those, so I'm going to use my like trusty oven mitts to lift the jars in and out. It's still too hot. Let's pull that down a little bit. Come on, cool down! I'm going to put the jam jars in now, even though it's still a little bit warmer than 180 degrees Fahrenheit, because I don't want my jam jars to cool anymore. Otherwise, there could be too much shock between the temperature, and I don't want them to explode. So I'm going to put mine in now. Oh, I forgot. Good thing I remembered. You're not supposed to put jam jars directly on the bottom of the pan, because the direct heat contact could make them explode. And the aim of the game is for them not to explode. So normally you'd use rack. Of course, I don't have a rack. I don't have any proper jamming equipment. So I'm going to use these 2 sponges and put them on the bottom of my pot. Don't know whether that's a good idea. We'll find out. And then these are going to sit on top of those sponges. Right, then we turn it back up and we top up any water that's needed. You mustn't pour it directly onto the jars. You're supposed to pour it like around them. And of course I've got a pot that is too tall. Oh, this is just all not very ideal, is it? I didn't really think about this when I was choosing jam jars. I don't think I've even got any deeper pots than that. don't have any deeper pots than that. That's alarming. Right, we'll put the lid on it and hope. I'm really worried that now putting those sponge things on it was not a good idea. But like, I've seen people do this when they put like towels down, and I just didn't have any towels that wouldn't be like ridiculously thick. The moral of the story is use proper jam equipment when trying to make jam. That's the moral of the story. Okay, Google, set a timer for 5 minutes.
Alright, 5 minutes. Starting now.
We shall see. Like, it's not even proper boiling right now. Hurry up! It also really helps if you have the pot properly overflame. That's always a good idea. I don't know what I'm doing yet. It's all just guessing. Okay, Google, cancel the timer.
Sure, cancelled.
This is why people use that saying, "I'll watch the pot never boils." Why am I watching it? I mean, does that count as boiling? I don't think so. I'm going to say that's boiling. Okay, Google, set a timer for 5 minutes.
Alright, 5 minutes. Starting now.
Right. Time lapse. Okay, Google, stop the timer. Yes! Good, I can turn this off. Oh, that was like the most stressful 5 minutes of my life. Right, I'm going to get a towel and put it out here, and then I'm going to take them out and rest them on the towel. And then run away. Here's my towel. I honestly feel a bit nervous about picking them up, because what if they explode? That'll be a very sad time for me, and a very painful time, so fingers crossed. I mean, I'm touching them and nothing bad is happening, so these gloves are just not the ideal thing, are they? Right, that was the most risky one. The second most risky one. Oh, the labels like come off this one, that's good. Okay. That wasn't the end of the world. I'm now going to leave those to cool down, and you're not supposed to move them very much for like the first 12 hours, because otherwise you can like break the set. Didn't know that was the thing until about 5 minutes ago. And it means that basically your jelly can like unset if you move them about, so you have to leave them where they are for about 12 hours. I'm going to like shuffle them into this gap. I'm going to make some dinner. And hopefully that was alright.